I was saying good morning and welcome, and I was saying that it is an honor for me to inaugurate the annual conference here at the European Parliament of the ESPAS meeting. Thinking about the future is basically what you're going to talk about. And I think that's very highly recommendable. And sometimes the past is an indication of a future, and so that's why it's very useful to remember certain things. We've gone through a long path after the publication of the World Trends to 2030 report. We talked about the digital revolution in 2016. We looked at social challenges in the Union, and in 2017, we looked at the future geopolitical order. All of these issues are of vital importance to the European Union, and for this reason, I think it's very important to highlight the role of ESPAS when anticipating some of the challenges that we may face in the future. We need to be better prepared to face these challenges in an efficient way. ESPAS looks at long-term perspectives and looks at various repercussions, and we have put forth solutions, not just temporary solutions, but solutions that will last. And this is something that we give to future generations. It's also important to say that we filled a void that existed in the institutional dialogue in the EU, and it has created a solid structure to exchange ideas among EP officials, council officials, commission officials, the EAS, the EESC, and the Committee of the Regions. Not only that, more recently, we've brought on board the EIB. All of this has been possible through the unrelenting efforts of the group of experts of the ESPAS, and so I would like to thank you for your excellent job of work. Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot rest on our laurels. So these are very difficult times for the European Union. It's been 10 years since the financial crisis of 2008. But more recently, migration pressures have put a lot of pressure to bear on our external borders, and we've had to look at a fair redistribution of the burden among member states. Economic recovery is still to be completed, and if we think about prosperity, you can see that there are divergencies from region to region, and this is something that has a negative impact on certain policies and politics. Young people don't necessarily have the opportunity to prosper, and there are many SMEs which are traditionally creators of jobs, creators of growth, that are struggling. They're struggling to survive under very difficult conditions. In this last decade, many of our citizens have felt abandoned by national, regional, and European authorities. Very often, they have seemed indifferent to the needs of the people. Eurosceptic parties are a response to this sense of alienation, and opportunism is gaining popular support. And this is something that is questioning the very existence of the European Union. And if this were not enough, this very week, we've had to witness one of the most sad events in the EU, which is the exit of the UK from the European Union based on the most recent agreements. In the coming months, we will be electing a new European Parliament, and this is one of the most democratic exercises in the world. In 2014, 60 million persons voted, and this is more than what we saw in the midterm elections. 60 million more people voted in the EU elections than have just voted in the US midterm elections. Those of us who support this common project need to restore trust among people who are disappointed with the EU. We still have a lot of work to do, and that's true, but we need to point out the achievements of the EU over the past years. Economic growth is now coming back to the continent, and this time we have seen an emphasis on the social dimension in the European Parliament. We've worked hard to strengthen the European pillar of social rights and to promote solidarity among the EU regions. We have increased financing for cohesion and for competitiveness. And I'm very pleased at our efforts under this term to beef up the European Solidarity Fund and to make more resources available for this. We have worked towards convergence, and this is something that is extremely valuable. And this is very good news because we're continuing along that path, but we're also going to expand that path. The European Parliament is working towards policies that will benefit our citizens to the greatest extent possible. But paradoxically, its legitimacy is more questioned than ever before. And for this reason, it is necessary to explain to everyone how, during the most recent crisis, the European Parliament has been the ally of the citizens, working for them. We need to find clearer arguments, more persuasive arguments, and we need to put them forth with strength. This is no time to be abstract. During this conference, we will be talking about topical issues such as other topics that are not as thoroughly discussed, but that are important because of their long-term effects. And this is the red thread that cuts through our discussions. We need to talk about how we can help people. It's not just about our short-term interests. What we truly want is to manage the interest of future generations. There are major contributions that we can make in this area, and for this reason, I'm convinced that this event is going to be extraordinarily positive. I would like to take this opportunity to share some thoughts about this. This European Parliament was key in building this project. This was a response to some of our mistakes when anticipating various crises. But we have shown that we can improve the capacity of prevention in the institutions, and we can better deal with these issues and in due time. And we've had a consistent approach in terms of dealing with things in a long-term way and doing this on the European level. And joining with the member states, we can better protect our citizens and in this way increase welfare of our citizens. And so I think this conference is the first step in consolidating this initiative, especially to make sure that in the next term and in the following terms, we will be able to maintain this impetus. And I think that we should promote the participation of external entities to come into this Brussels bubble, to use a metaphor. And we need to consult our citizens on the ground, in the regions. The European Union needs to be more aware of citizens' expectations so that we can solve issues more efficiently. And so we need to come to our regions and our cities, and there's a major contribution that we can make in the activities there. Ladies and gentlemen, the history of Europe is, well, it's complicated. It's very complicated. But one of the lessons of the development of European integration is that we can solve our differences through negotiation. We've learned that we can find a coordinated response to the various problems that a nation alone cannot solve. And so this is the time to have a similar approach on the global level, because wherever you look, you'll see signs of division. The international dialogue has become very hardened. We talk about rival states and competition among rival states, but very little is talked about cooperation or multilateralism. So this is a very disconcerting situation, very disconcerting indeed. And in Europe, we defend collaboration. This is the major resource that we have in global issues. We were the ones who set forth the Paris agreements, and we took the initiative to solve the issue of global warming. We're active in the United Nations and in other multilateral organizations. Without doubt, we defend an international order which is rules-based. This is one of the cornerstones of the period of prosperity that we have enjoyed for decades. Now, we're not only concerned about the increase of authoritarian and repressive states, but we're also concerned about our allies that should have a more broad-ranging approach. And I'm talking specifically about the United States here. At this point in time, not only do we have major internal concerns such as the economic and social well-being of our citizens, but above and beyond that, we have major concerns on the outside having to do with peacekeeping, cooperation on the global level. Putin, Trump, these are problems. This is really a very difficult nut to crack for the European Union. And so what this means is that we, as representatives of the European Union, have a responsibility that we cannot avoid. We have to defend our principles, principles which under no circumstances can we let go of. But what are these principles? First of all, we should leave no one behind, no person, no region. We are working to make sure that our citizens have opportunities wherever they live and that they can attain a good standard of living in every corner of the European Union. Secondly, we believe in democracy. It is the voters, not the governors, who decide who governs and when that government should change. And I include myself here, and but I was also, not only have I been a member of parliament for many years, but I also spent 19 years in regional government in Spain. So the rule of law is the best basis for prosperity, social well-being, and indeed for peace and security. With these values and championing these values, we should be able to resist those who see the future and only see disaster and doom. There are anti-European, populist, nationalist movements. They do exist. And they have garnered serious support. Notwithstanding, those who see the benefits of the European Union are, and we are, more in number, and we are reacting. And I put full trust in your commitment and to a good result in the elections. We want to make sure that those who feel that Europe is useful will prevail over those who feel it is not. So we have a very clear and strong position. We have recovered from the crisis. We have shown that the naysayers were wrong, people who felt we would not succeed. So we need to look at the opportunities and not just the risks. We have in our hands the possibility to restore the economic prosperity of our citizens and to guarantee long-term well-being to our citizens. And so this, ladies and gentlemen, is, in my modest opinion, the key issue to restore confidence. And believe me, we will never have a better argument than we have now. Thank you very much for your attention, and I would like to wish you every success during this meeting, which I'm sure will be of greatest benefit to our citizens to whom we entrust our union. Thank you very much.